On Thursday, the Taiwanese army simulated a war scenario involving urban warfare confrontation. It was the second day of a 3-day military drill. The exercises took place in a mock town built for military simulations. The area is designed to mimic urban environments. There are neighborhoods and alleys similar to those you see in Taiwanese cities. An instructor of the exercises says they are training because the enemy will show no mercy.
We also train under difficult conditions, including rainy days, scorching sun, and extreme cold. We make no distinction between men and women. We have to train under harsh conditions because the enemy will show us no mercy.
During the drill, one team was tasked with attacking a city, while another team was tasked with defending it. The soldiers had lasers attached to their weapons with blank cartridges for training purposes. Members of the media were allowed to watch the exercises. This is to showcase that Taiwan is combat ready. The exercises come amid rising tensions with Beijing. The Chinese military is dispatching an increasing number of warplanes into Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Is Beijing really going to attack Taiwan? A top U.S. Admiral Phil Davidson said last year that Beijing could invade Taiwan in the next 6 years. Davidson was the commander for the U.S. Indo-Pacific Command at the time. In the middle of last year, a leading military magazine in China published an article. It described 3 steps to gain control of Taiwan. It involves air, maritime, and land battles. Washington says it's undeterred by China's recent sanctions, targeting 4 U.S. government officials. In a statement posted Monday, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the U.S. stands in solidarity with the sanctioned officials and that the United States will continue to use all diplomatic and economic tools to defend human rights around the world. The statement comes after Beijing sanctioned 4 U.S. government officials. All of them are members of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. The organization is a branch of the federal government that monitors rights violations around the world. They also make policy recommendations to the U.S. president. Under the penalties, the 4 officials are banned from entering China. Beijing's move comes after the U.S. sanctioned 2 Chinese officials over the repression of Uyghurs in Xinjiang. Beijing is closely monitoring the unrest in Kazakhstan. On Friday, CCP leader Xi Jinping said that he strongly opposes any external forces' attempt to instigate revolutions in Kazakhstan and harm China's relations with the country. Violent protests erupted across Kazakhstan over rising fuel prices and partially over a lack of real democracy. In response, the president of Kazakhstan declared a state of emergency in parts of the country on Wednesday. Kazakhstan's stability is critical to China. This is because the country is key to Beijing's Belt and Road Initiative. It was also where Xi Jinping first announced the project in 2013. From 2005 to 2020, China's total investment in Kazakhstan reached nearly $20 billion. Kazakhstan is also an important source of gas for China. In 2017, the 2 countries made an agreement. Kazakhstan would export 170 billion cubic feet of natural gas to China each year. China is also Kazakhstan's second largest trading partner. Total trade between the 2 countries reached over $22 billion in 2021. The protests and riots may threaten Chinese firms and investments in Kazakhstan. Chinese state media Global Times has even stepped in to ease those concerns. But it still admitted that the situation in Kazakhstan will inevitably have some impact on the delivery of oil and gas.
And the Chinese Communist Party is reportedly going after the country's algorithms. Is going to regulate how companies operate them, with experts concerned it will hurt investor confidence in China. NTD's Faye Corder has the details.
The Chinese regime has finalized rules governing the way tech companies use recommendation algorithms. It's to increase oversight in tech industry.
The more vision they have into that and exposure, then the more control they can have of those systems.
The new rules are seen as targeting the secret behind the success of many tech giants. The managing director of Capture, Bob Bilbrook, says algorithms are the lifeblood of tech companies.
For instance, in Facebook, it runs and, they have all these engines that run these different communication models that allow that communication to take place instantaneously.
Under China's algorithm regulation, companies cannot use algorithm recommendations to violate Chinese law, such as endangering national security. And news services need to obtain a license and cannot push fake news. Bilbrook is concerned it will impact the investment community.
How many users are going to exit because they don't want that exposure that is now going to be there with that much of the Chinese government having that much control and knowledge base into the inner workings of those tech companies.
As for Western tech giants that want to reach the Chinese market, Bilbrook thinks it'll be a hard trade-off.
Technology is supposed to be free and innovative, and it's really set to the capitalistic approach to the world, where communism doesn't really invite that complementary part of the technology.
Beijing says companies can be fined from around $1,500 to $15,000 for violating the rules.
Beijing has appointed a new commander to the Chinese military force in Hong Kong. The new commander, Tang, used to be in charge of the armed police force in Xinjiang. The U.S. says Beijing has been committing genocide in that region. Xinjiang is home to 12 million Uyghurs, members of an ethnic minority. Washington says Beijing has been suppressing the population through slave labor, mass detention, and forced sterilization. Peng reportedly has experience in leading the crackdown on the Xinjiang's Uyghur population. While he was there, he developed a special task force called the Mountain Eagles. In just 1 year, the force fired the same number of bullets as all other security forces combined over 3 years. Some China watchers think Peng's appointment is a signal from Beijing that the Chinese regime won't tolerate any mass protests in Hong Kong. The Chinese regime has maintained a military force in Hong Kong since 1997. Those troops usually don't interfere with local affairs, and Hong Kong police are the ones maintaining public order. But if Hong Kong authorities need assistance, they have the option to ask Beijing's military force to step in. Made in China products camouflaged in order to enter the U.S. military. That done by 2 American companies. NTD's Iris Tao.
2 American companies now have to pay the government $900,000. This as a punishment for trying to trick the U.S. military about where their products were actually made. The Department of Justice on Thursday reveals that Sono International in Connecticut and Arc Capital Equipment in New York have agreed to pay the government for violating the False Claims Act. They supplied the Army and the Air Force with hundreds of shipping containers, allegedly hiding the fact that they were made in China or with Chinese steel. The DOJ's announcement comes as President Biden re-emphasizes supply chain security on the same day.
Let's make Let's make what we're selling in America made in America. So we're not at risk of foreign supply chains.
According to court documents obtained by NTD, Sono and Arc are accused of intentionally changing the identifying metal plates on 100 shipping containers made in China so that they appear to have been made in South Korea. The DoD's Buy American regulations require agencies to purchase American-made materials or ones made in specified allied countries, such as South Korea. U.S. Attorney Jennifer Williams says in the statement that Americans have the right to know that their tax dollars are being spent to support American jobs and American policies. She adds that those providing for our warfighters will be punished if they don't follow clear rules. The case surfaces amid ongoing tensions between China and the U.S. The White House has warned against threats posed by Chinese products in critical supply chains. Iris Tao, NTD News.